Washington Bruce Romeo Parks and Rec Commission to order. So we could start with the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I would entertain a volunteer to read our mission statement. I see that it has been printed out and put in front of us, so we don't have to hunt. Who would like to read this month?
I can read it.
Thank you, Pam.
To attract and encourage participation for all age groups and abilities through positive opportunity and quality service for the purpose of enriching our residents' lives.
Fantastic. It's always good to know why we're here and remember why we're here as we go through all of the important work that we have this evening. I'd like to take the roll call for this evening's minutes, please, Ms. Zimmerman.
Mr. Billick.
Here.
Ms. Getter.
Here.
Ms. Knight. Here. Mr. Palmer.
Here.
And Ms. Zimmerman is here. Also present, we have Clara Russell, John Scarron. Got it.
Fantastic, thank you. Next on our agenda for this evening, and is the consent agenda, first of which is to approve the minutes of the June 15th regular meeting. Would entertain a motion for that.
Make a motion to approve the minutes.
Mr. Billick, second by Ms. Knight. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Minutes are approved. We are looking to now approve the agenda for this evening's meeting, and I know we do have a couple of additions or changes to that agenda, so I know, Ms. Zimmerman, you had one?
I do, I'd like to change item number 10 to item number 12, so that we take care of number 10 before we go into closed session. So, it's, I had us going into closed and then coming back, but,
So have the community comments
May I just
commission.
offer
Yeah.
a comment? I mean, all you're doing in 10 is you are proving whether to go into closed session. You can certainly make that motion that, I move that we go into closed session at the conclusion of the regular meeting. So you can either move it or leave it where it is, but we just won't actually go into closed session until you're
okay.
done with
Well-
items 11 and 12.
Yeah, I've changed it on my agenda, so I would rather do it that way I
Sure.
don't get messed up when I'm going to do the minutes.
I'd like to make two changes.
Okay.
I'd like to remove 7A, and I'd like to remove 8F.
Remove 7A and remove 8F, you say?
Yes.
Now, I know protocol-wise, but with the emergency door quotes, are you looking to have more information or move it to an additional meeting?
I would like updated bids. One of those bids was from January. It had a 20-day expiration. The other bid was from January of 2022, and the other bid did not have a date on it. So we
Okay.
updated bids.
All right. And my is an addition to 8, and I guess it would be 8L then. We have a park subcommittee of which we have met once with the engineers, but upon receiving some additional information from the engineering firm today, and I know that it's in this year's budget, wanted to just provide some additional information and provide some action in terms of having some additional meetings. And I wanted to also go on the record and state that on that subcommittee is Mrs. Knight as well. So we want to make sure we update that subcommittee to include Mrs. Knight as well. Any other changes to the agenda other than what's been stated?
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda as amended.
All right.
Second.
We're fighting for seconds, all right. Do I need to choose who that is, or can we? Ms. Gettert, I heard your name first. I heard your voice first.
Got it?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye as well. Opposed? All right, agenda approved as amended. Approving the accounts payable from 6/16 to 7/21. Those were included in the resources that we were given prior to the meeting.
We need to make an amendment to that one.
All right, Mrs. Knight, please.
That was Thursday's meeting, the 7/21, but we have the updated from this week, so we'll amend to 7/28.
Correct, thank you. So it should say approve accounts payable from 6/16/23 to 7/28/23.
Correct.
All right,
Make a motion to approve the accounts payable from 6/16/23 to 7/28/23.
Second.
seconded by Mrs. Knight. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Oh, no, sorry, that's got to be roll call.
Oh, okay, because there's money, thank you. Thank you for that correction. Please call the roll.
Mr. Billick,
Yes.
Ms. Getter,
Yes.
Ms. Knight,
Yes.
Mr. Palmer,
Yes?
and Ms. Zimmerman is a yes.
All right. The accounts payable are approved. On to number 5, Mr. Starron, any updates from yourself?
I don't have any general comment or report. I may have some comments on some of the specific agenda items, so if you don't mind, I'll hold until we get to those items.
Absolutely, thank you. Number 6, anyone in the community that would like to come up and address the commission, you are welcome to do so at this time. As you do so, if you wouldn't mind coming up to a microphone so we can hear and, sure, introduce yourself and who you are and where you're from, and we'd love to hear your comments.
Hello, Megan Posnanski, President at the Village of Romeo. I wanted to come and say hello to the new commission members. Know most of you, have met you or ran across you sometime in the village. And then also wanted to touch on, I had met with Cindy and Mr. Palmer at a subcommittee meeting at the village, talking in regards to the 2 different leases. The village at our last meeting went ahead. It seems as if we are open to the idea of, the South Building Meeting Room and renting out space for some storage and taking that back over ourselves. I did request, or the council requested, that if that's what the commission would like, that we follow the procedure, and that would be sending a letter of communication asking the village to end that continual lease. I believe it goes on in perpetuity every 3 months or something like that. So please communicate with us in writing. We'll start the procedure there. And we're looking at, I believe Clerk Trapp just reached out this afternoon to Lynn and Clara so that we can go over to the building, see exactly how much space, square footage you guys would like to rent and use within there, and then we're going to somehow come up with a number of what that would equate to, go to a couple different storage units in the low area, see what square footage rents at commonly, and come up with a number, and then get back to you. So that's where we're at with that. And then also on the larger scale of the 99-year lease, we have formed a subcommittee. We're open to communicating and talking about it, so we can start that conversation however that ends up and looks. We're at least open to going down that avenue with you guys and looking at that. And then what I passed out, what I have in front of you, what you may or may not know, if you were aware of also at our meeting, we have finally officially declared that property on Sisson Street a park. It has been green space owned by the village for a while, just an open field. It used to be our DPW site, sits on Sisson just across from the bus garage. So what I passed out to you tonight is your own materials, but I wanted you to be on the same page with me as I am as I'm reading through them. So it's your master plan from, I know, it's old, but still, just to point out that it's in the master plan and it was, thought of. And so in this, there's multiple pages. I don't need to go over it with you guys, but were you guys addressed, or it was addressed by the commission at a time, that this property was in consideration of the Parks and Rec Commission? On the second to last page, it even gives it a high priority of development for a future park. It even talks to it, the location, the acreage, it's 1.2 acres. So I'm just here to say it's officially a park and to ask what are the next steps in joining with the Parks and Rec Commission into whatever this is developed into park-wise. I don't believe we want, it's not going to be a playscape and that sort of a thing. We're not looking for anything along those avenues. But we just want to join in with you in the development of it, not really looking to now create Village of Romeo's own park commission to now develop our own parks. It just seems redundant that you have the resources. You've done this before. We'd like to join in with you, however this happens, to take this to fruition to the next step. So that is all.
I have a question. So you're looking more for just a static park, greenery space and walking trails?
That's the idea behind it. Initially, I would like to, though, still maybe send out a survey, because now this doesn't just involve Romeo. If we come to the Parks and Rec Commission, that is what we found when we did our task force who is looking for green space within our footprint. That is what that task force would prefer to it to be. It's their backyard, so of course they would prefer not to probably have a splash pad in their backyard. However, I do realize and acknowledge that coming in or asking the Parks and Rec Commission to partner with us in this. This is now Bruce, Romeo, and Washington in consideration of what this green space would be. So maybe another survey needs to be taken as to what everybody, because it's all of the tri-community tax dollars now and possibly involved. So.
Question just from myself, Clara. Is there, in our newer master plan, the updated one to this that we're still in the draft form of, would that space have been considered because it was in this plan, or would it have been even addressed at all? I don't recall from reading it.
So, I'm not 100% sure, but at one point, we were looking at it as a park. And then I think it was decided that it wasn't going to be. But now if it is, then it would be something that we would put back in there. But it still might be listed as possible parkland for the future. It was just decided that, I don't know, 5-6 years ago, when the thought process came up, that it was just voted that it wasn't going to.
So now that it is, and that's official, I read it in the paper, and now we've heard it from the...
So I put down to make sure.
Okay. And again, I understand, I work in government too, timelines, and there's no expectations that this is going to be a park with things happening next week. We get timelines, and again, surveys take time, drawings take time, implementing takes time.
Absolutely. Councilor Paz, you have a question?
Yeah, Clara, was there anything, any proposed, I mean, what would you envision them using that particular space for?
So I did receive a picture of what the park commission was,
Our task force.
the task force, was looking at it, and it was really pretty. It was more like a floral type of garden, type of area that had designs. You saw that, right? I wish I would have brought a picture. Sorry, I did not. But, so it was very passive. It was more like a thinker park.
I believe, and I'm trying to find it in here, you guys even referred to it, maybe it was in the map, one of the maps, more of a possible memorial park, that it has a sit and pause, kind of maybe just a walking path sort of thing.
Nice.
I was going to look and see if it was in.
But we have the park subcommittee that we've put together for Washington and Gilcher. I don't know, I'm on that, so I don't know if I can make the motion to do that, but it seems to be logical that that also becomes part of that subcommittee. So I guess I just did make the motion that we would include this as part of the Parks Subcommittee and work in partnership with the Village of Romeo. Any question, comment on that?
I'll support the motion.
Oh, thank you. Now, is there any questions or comments on that? Okay, all in favor of adding that to our Parks Subcommittee, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, it is approved. So as we're looking for dates, we'll add some more dates.
Yeah, let me know. Thank you very much. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Megan.
Anyone else like to, oh, sorry, Clara? you-
Can I ask you a question? The park committee, is it just for Washington Romeo area right now, or, and I apologize that I didn't see or get the correct invitation. But if it is, Bob, since you accidentally showed up, if it's for Romeo, Washington, Bruce, would we want somebody from Bruce on it too?
Well, I think the committee as is does have Bob on it. I don't, we're adding Cindy to it as she should have been in the first place.
And that's good for 3 people.
Yeah.
Can we do that?
Can we do that? With 3?
As long as we're not-
I say, as long as you post it, take minutes, and don't
Yeah,
make
I
any
mean-
decisions.
Don't make decisions.
Yeah, I mean, you can do it, but those are exactly the rules you
Okay.
need to follow. Have to be conducted as an open meeting. If, if you intend to be, I would recommend it. I mean, the rule of thumb is if you have a quorum of the members present, you need to post it and conduct it as an open meeting, or you should.
Yeah, but they just can't make any final decisions. They can make recommendations to the commissioners, and then the commissioners decide, correct?
Well, that's right. I mean, it can be an advisory
Right.
committee, but I think you should still post it, take
Right.
minutes and that sort
Yeah.
of thing.
Okay.
So we would just take it. Unless you're gonna come, I'm just kidding, but we can take it.
Then we'd have everybody.
If it's,
No, I'm just
well,
thinking if-
if you record it, I can always make the minutes from the recording, so, if I'm not there. But yeah, if I can be there, I'll be there to take the minutes.
Well,
Would there be any issue, John, if we did a south of 32, north of 32 into 2 subcommittees so we did not violate?
They separately meet,
Yeah.
yeah, you can do that.
Because right now, we have Washington Parks in this year's budget that has to go right now. This one and things in Bruce, to my knowledge, aren't anything that are tick-tick-tock, that if we had one in that way.
Yeah, you can do that.
You can be on both.
And I would be the glue between the two.
Common thread.
Yeah.
The only issue that I see with that is we're going back to dividing our committee. I mean, the way I look at
You're right.
this and the Parks and Rec Commission as similar to a school district, we are a park district. And so we need to look at it from the whole, not from Washington, Bruce.
You're right.
If at all possible.
I agree, I can take minutes. I'll give them to Phyllis if I'm the glue. Well, we have one commission. I think you're right. Thank you. Thank you for,
Okay.
correct. So the motion stands as is and as passed then, correct?
Correct.
And we'll just have to add the additional, making sure that we post and take minutes.
Posted minutes.
Okay.
Oh, I guess we should decide, are we going to record them?
Recording is not a legal requirement,
Right,
but it often makes it a lot easier for the minute taker.
it does.
But if you're not doing motions, there's not really that much to record.
Well, that's right.
Yeah, that's true.
I would
Just a
prefer to,
discussion.
yeah, I would prefer
Yeah.
to take minutes and
Okay.
give them to you just because
So we just have to post it.
one less person to worry about having to be there wherever we are.
And technically, there is no one right or wrong way to do minutes. Technically, minutes only need to reflect
What happened?
who's there and the motions that were approved and what the vote was. That doesn't need to reflect any of the discussion or commentary, although often that's what folks find the most
Yeah,
important and beneficial thing of having minutes is so you could go back to them and kind of get a sense of the history and backstory behind it. But just as a technical matter, you basically just say, we came, we saw, we adopted these motions, we held public comment, we adjourned. There's your minutes.
And in this one, since we're in an advisory capacity, it'll be even easier than that, I think, so.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Is there anyone else that would like to participate in public community comments this evening? All All right, having heard none, we are on to the director's report, and we have tabled A, the emergency door quotes.
We didn't table it, we just
We
deleted it.
deleted it, sorry.
If you want to table it, we need a motion.
Well, I think when Cindy, when you explained it, that you want to come back and see the additional quotes. So maybe we make a motion then to get that additional information and bring it back to August's meeting. And make a better motion then. So I make a motion that we ask for updated quotes for the emergency doors, and we will bring it back onto the agenda for the August meeting. Ms. Knight, is that acceptable motion? All right, second by Ms. Knight. All in favor of that motion?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right, and that will carry. There, the AED Washington Township update, looks like it's next on there.
So can I just ask a question on
Sure.
the doors? So we talked to them all, and they're good with it, so I just needed to have a different date, not necessarily
Yeah.
one more company.
Yeah, just have them update the dates and make sure the numbers are good with
Yeah.
the dates. Thank you.
Okay, AED in Washington Township, so the AED is up as of, yes, actually today, it's up and working. Our signage is coming, and I called the insurance just to see if we need to do, I'm a little bit worried about the vandalism that happened. There's a big alarm on it, and there will be a camera shortly, or a better camera shortly. So that's just really minute. You had already approved it, that it was going to happen. The whole cost of the project was about $3,400, including Metro Electric came out, did the electricity. So there is a fan and a heating element in it, so it will never, from the weather, it won't have any issues. And then the alarm, like I said, and then I hooked it up to the Wi-Fi. It doesn't call the fire department, actually the Wi-Fi just sets it up, and our Wi-Fi does not reach that far, so if we do put a Wi-Fi out in the park more, it's still not going to call the fire department at this time, none of our AEDs do. However, what the fire department can do is when they get there, it can just take the information, or take the whole AED and take the information with them and start using it right away, so. It is a good thing, and it's our first time we've ever had one in the outside park, so it is exciting. It's right by the pickleball course, and we did have an incident where it wasn't a heart attack, but it was a related issue with a heart, never needed to be resuscitated or anything like that, but ironically, it was one of the gentlemen that we actually spoke to when we were out at the playground one day looking at that, and we were talking about AEDs and we were talking about additional pickleball. So, thankfully.
Was it like about 9:30 in the morning, 9:30 in the morning one morning?
One morning, yes.
Yeah, because I was driving by and I saw the vehicles coming out.
Yeah.
The ambulance and the fire truck and stuff coming
He's
out.
fine, everything's good. It's
Okay,
just,
good.
it's good that it's up there, and it's just good to have it, so it'll be good. I don't know if experiment is the word, but it would be nice to get them, as we go forward at the additional parks. Is that right?
And you had mentioned too that there is annual maintenance and,
Monthly, well, actually, yeah, we check it monthly, and we check all of our AEDs monthly, and check the alarms and everything like that. And then this one, we'll probably check a little bit more just to make sure that nothing had went wrong with it, because just because it has an alarm on it doesn't mean that, some point the battery for the alarm. Someone might, hopefully, you know what I mean, someone's gonna be in the park, so.
I do have a question on that. I know the ones like that you have at the community center or the ones that they have here at Washington, probably there's somebody that knows how to operate it when it's outside. Is there?
So we offer, actually through the Washington Fire Department, we work with them, and every season we offer AED and CPR and first aid classes to the community. Parks and Recreation and STAR, we've always offered it free for any of our staff that we see fit or, that are in general programs. So AEDs in general, hopefully everybody look in our brochure, there's programs all throughout the year for that. So we do rely on people, and it does talk you right through it. So even if you've never had training, you could open it and it would say, do this, do that. Yeah.
Pretty cool.
Because even though I've been trained on it, I'm pretty sure in a situation like that, I would still need it to tell me, don't forget this, don't forget that, whatever. So they're lifesavers. I mean, they just really are. So.
Fantastic, thank you. Anything else on this one? Any other questions, comments? It's obviously informational only. It's in place. Love this. I can't wait to use it. But I can't wait to walk by and see it there for people's use.
Yeah, and we are putting, again, signage around the park so people are aware, and the sign will be right above it. It's in a nice location that ended up being right on tennis courts as opposed to on one of the light poles due to the dawn to dusk functionality of that pole, so, which would not work with
Is there a
our.
light on the pole at a time?
There is, well.
I mean, usually they have like a light above where those are located so people can look around and see exactly.
There is not a light at this time.
Like a blue light, yeah.
I mean, we could look at that, but right now it just has signage.
So that then people just can look around and they'll see the blue light,
Right,
know where to go.
yeah, let me look at that.
Awesome.
Our goal is to get it up.
Get it up,
as soon as
For sure, for sure. And next we have the vendor letter draft, and I think that's just informational, but you
Yeah, I know that we want to make sure that we start updating, so we just made a very, like, it's not official, but it's I mean, it has what the name needs to be changed to. If it needs more, or it needs to be signed by the commission instead of myself, whatever, it's just so we can get the ball rolling, and as we go through and we are paying vendors, we can include it and or email it to all of the vendors that we have.
So I think, as is.
I like that. Oh, I think on my updated, I like how you had the names of the commissioners, so I put that on. Yeah.
Okay, so I don't have the updated one, so the updated one would look like that, but the names of the commissioners on the side of it.
Right.
Okay. Anything from the commission on that vendor letter, or if not, I'd like someone else to entertain a motion. I seem to be motioning a lot today on whether we,
I thought it was informational only.
that's not now.
Oh, it's not, okay.
It was informational until we
I'll
decided
make
we
a
liked the other one.
motion, I'll make a motion to approve the use of the letter that was created by Ms. Russell.
I'll second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, the letter as it is now in use. We're already for use. Sponsorship list and breakdown. Do you want to talk through that a little bit, Clara? I think there were a couple of questions I know that will come up from the commission, but just in general, I know you provided that to us. Any additional information we would want to know about that list?
So the list that I gave you is the sponsorship list, or the sponsors that we get either annually or per season. We normally make about, or retain about $25,000 for that. We then take that, well, between 25 and 30, and we normally take about 25, 23 of it. I'm not exactly sure. It changed, but, and I can look at it, but, oh, here we go. Sorry.
It's on the list.
Yeah, so we take between 23 and 25 and we move it to our special events program. We started doing that when we stopped sending our 40-page brochure. So the funds come in, and anybody that is a sponsor gets an ad on our website and then listed on our flyers and on our little brochure or little pamphlet that we sent home. And then we we take those funds and we spread them out through our biggest community special events and for our senior events. And then we use some of the funds towards paying for the marketing or special events coordinator as we go through. This year, we will be using it more for the marketing coordinator as opposed to the special events coordinator.
Okay. Any questions or additional wonders for Clara from the commission?
I do have a question on the budgets. So how does it, I'm just curious how it works on each one of these. Do these all get clumped into special events and then you guys?
So we take, no, we have a line in the budget that is for brochure revenue. And so we put all this in sponsorship. It says, so then we put all of the funds that come in there. And then at the end of the year, like say we didn't make 25,000 or we didn't meet our goal, then is when I decide I just would limit. And what happens also in the budget, on the revenue part in the special events, I know what I'm guessing we're gonna bring in every year. So when I'm budgeting that, I make sure it shows in the revenue part. So it kind of reflects off. The expenses are still showing exactly what the expenses are, but the revenue for special events, instead of just budgeting whatever we would from the millage or from, not the millage, but from the fees and revenues that we bring in, I just make sure it's reflected.
All right. Letter E, in terms of IT, and there was task manager, but also obviously new contract employee, and I don't know if it's appropriate even to say in the public meeting, but I guess I want to anyway, in terms of the passing of.
Ron Ressler, who was our IT person since we actually started networking our computers. He started out at Washington Township, and then they went to other companies, so we kept him because we were small, and he has honestly made us work all these years. And so now, after talking to, I've been trying to just kind of see, because I'm not exactly sure how we're going to go about putting a code out there, or, I asked all the townships to see who they're using for IT. So I was talking to an IT company today, and normally they come in and they do like an analysis on it, and they said that they would sign a disclosure, just because there is private information in there, and they're just really looking to see like how our server is set up and how it's connected to our satellite server, and how what we have and how our computers, just to kind of see how, because every computer company can do it a different way. You know what I mean? It's tomato, tomato, it's how you get to the end result. So they just want to make sure that, our security is up to date, if we're doing our backups, we do backups in the cloud. I think that we also have a backup on site, just so that we have one, because the cloud, no matter how safe you can be, like you were even explaining today, you want to have two sets, because, so I'm 95% positive that we have two sets. I think we use our old server as our backup for that. But again, we need to see, I think it's a good idea. I was thinking that I could have this company kind of do it. I did ask him, I'm like, well, if you come in and do this, and so we're gonna have to go out to bid. And he was fine. And then they also offered that if we have any emergency issues right now, that they would come in and help us out, which probably every company, if they were smart, they would probably say that. And I really haven't talked to any additional companies, but I did have a referral for this, and I spent a good hour and a half, and I was pretty impressed with what was talked about. But I think that any big company, they really do so much remotely now. But, and that's my biggest concern, is like, and I'm good with remote, if you can fix it from, you know, wherever, because our IT person, he would fix it from, you know, when you go on vacation or whatever, he would fix any little problems or whatever that he had. But then they also have the capability to send people out to us too, if they needed to. And they also do, you know, copy machines, and they do the whole gamut. Good or bad, I don't know on that one, like phone system, but we just upgraded our phone system, so I think that we're kind of good there. And I don't know, there's just so much that could come with this that it probably would be a good idea just to get that first analysis so that we could compare it against anything else. So what I would like to do is use this company, have them do that if the commission wants me to do that.
Did Dave give you any kind of sense on cost yet, or are you just having initial conversations?
No, initial. Yeah, so the only thing that he did say is that now, like we used to, we paid per job, right? It was whenever he came out, like, and it was $75 an hour. And then if he purchased whatever new computer for us, then he would bill us for that, or actually he started having us buy the computers. And then he would just come out and put those together. I don't know how it's gonna work like that. They said that they look at the number of computers, what this analysis shows, and then they have different levels of what they charge us, but it's charged per month, which will be new and will be more expensive, but it will, that is the standard that happens now in the IT world. Unless we want to go with an individual.
Can you give me a rough estimate of what you would spend in a typical month? Or when Ron was doing it?
Oh, some months, nothing.
Okay.
You know what I mean? There, like many times, we would be so good, and then, what would you say, Bernard? Yeah.
If we didn't have an issue, then we didn't need them, so.
Right, I understand.
So like we had a
It was minimal.
computer, or, you know, we purchased the new computers for Star, and he came to Star, set them all up, got them set on the server, and I'm gonna say that the cost of that was definitely under $1,000 to do that. And the amount of
I was
time.
just curious, so it's not important.
Um,
I'm gonna make a motion that we direct Ms. Russell to engage this, do you have a name of a company?
Yeah, XFER Communications.
Okay, Expert Communication. That she gets a price from them for the analysis.
No, the analysis, they were just gonna, that's their.
Oh, it's
first
free?
step. Yeah.
Then I changed my motion to proceed with the analysis.
Do you know, is there, I'm sorry, you got a motion, sorry.
Yeah.
I'm violating.
So easy.
I will second the motion.
Do you take any questions?
Now you can discuss it.
Yeah, we'll take some discussion here.
Do you guys, just in hearing the discussion, the village recently went out for an IT RFP. I don't know how you guys, the commission works and your rules with at what amounts you need to go out for RFP, get different bids on how much each different place costs, and I would potentially look around into your current communities and who they use. It's just a thought.
Yeah, for sure, thank you. And I know that would be our next step after we get the analysis done, so we know what we're putting out there.
Looking for it.
Any other questions, discussion on the motion that's on the table? All in favor of the analysis of the motion? Aye. Opposed? And then we will have an analysis. Next, F, Christmas decoration, Washington Building.
So, we've been, for the last 2 years, we've decorated the Washington Township Hall. The first year that it started, we actually professionally decorated the Township Hall. So, the first year we did the drive-through, so it went with the whole drive-through. Last year, it was agreed upon by the commission to pay for that again. So, we've been billed from Washington to have it done for this year too. The cost is $3,165. They do all of the poles and around the area. I think the question had come up is, do I decorate Bruce Township Hall? And I do not. I mean, do I decorate the village? I do not. So, Washington Township Hall is a little bit different because we have the senior center there, and that was the decision maker of why we did the decorations in the past.
Was there not a question last year about a shared expense, correct?
Yeah.
And what happened? I don't
No,
remember.
it was, we did take on the cost of it.
I know we did, but there was discussion by the two commissioners, I believe, that it should be shared. But then that didn't go anywhere, correct?
No.
Okay.
Well, it was approved
Yeah, so it was approved for us to pay,
Yeah.
for parks to pay.
for the parks.
Okay.
Now, with that said, we are sharing the cost of the parking lot for Washington Township, and it's 60/40. So I mean, maybe that is something we look at if we're doing that. We do have the senior center there. I mean, it is,
I guess my question would be, where do we do most of our Christmas activities? That, I mean, I would say that would be the place that you would want decorated.
so the Christmas party for Washington Township is done with the Lions, the pavilion. And we decorate that. So when there is no Christmas tree out front this year too, which we normally decorate that as well. So, I mean, I can go both ways. I do know that it looks nice. It looks nice for our senior center. The shared, I could see us sharing, I could see why we would do that. That was
Do we
just-
do any other Christmas events in the village or in Bruce?
We do the Romeo Village, and normally we are the ones that have paid for, in the past, we paid for the decoration of the Christmas tree. But the last few times it has been donations. So wherever we have our parties, we pay for and decorate normally
Absolutely.
unless somebody else offers to do it. And then we say yay.
And where do they do the Santa?
In the pavilion in Washington, we do that. We used to do the indoors, but we moved everything outdoors. And then in the village, we do it on the new pavilion.
I mean, I hate to complicate things, but it seems that we ought to think about being consistent among how we're doing it myself, but I don't, like, to me, if we're doing like you said, if we're doing something there, that makes total sense. And if there's additional things that, other of the entities want to do, because we have the vendor out there, I mean, it would make some sense to, just kind of bundle it together, but in terms of how we split the cost of those, because again, how extravagant you want it to be is going to be based on probably the township's needs, not the Parks and Recs, if we're focused on our events.
Does the community center get any decorating?
We do that, and we just do the lights around to show that we are in the Christmas spirit.
So like in Romeo, the new pavilion, right?
Right.
I mean, Would you even have permission to do?
Should you, so,
It already has lights, right?
We, the very small talks that we've had in regards to the pavilion is, we don't, at this point, want to tack, nail, do any, that kind of stuff. Now, when it comes to Christmas decorations, I don't know if they want to make an exception there. That was just in general, that if someone wanted to rent it, or like Music in the Park, we don't stick up a Music in the Park banner on there or something like that. But decorations, that might be a little different. And yes, it does have some sort of lights that the thought was during holidays, you would turn them on for that sort of thing.
Yeah, and they change color
Yeah,
for the
yeah.
appropriate.
so I think the decorating part would probably be the other trees around the park.
Yes, and last year, yeah, they got donated. We have the new fence there, and I mean, I don't know what the plan is on our end.
Right. So,
We have a little time, can we go back and maybe get a better coordinated plan around this? And
Yeah, I mean, if you only get 40% or 60%, which is a 60, the seniors is 60.
well, we normally do 40, the senior center is 40.
Everything else is, so why are we paying the full amount? Sorry, Rasha.
You know,
That's-
well,
It's my thought as well. I
I
just,
mean, it's a money thing. I mean, our money is for
Glad you
parks
said
and
it. I
rec.
didn't want-
yeah, no, and I said the same thing last year when the discussion came up last year. I don't believe that, and yes, our senior center's there, and
40%.
yeah, and, you know, we have 40% billing, so we could just decorate our senior center. But no, we're gonna decorate the entire building. And I don't believe that that's our expense.
I agree.
I think that,
it's how it started. When we did
I
the
understand,
drive-through,
but
It was all right by, like,
Yeah.
all poles in the front. so
I think that perhaps we need to open a discussion with Washington Township about that, since we do have time.
I'd like to open it with all three, because, I
Yeah.
mean, if we're going to do, I mean, let's,
Right,
I'm as festive as the next person, let's just,
Right.
but let's be,
consistent.
no humbug, humbug.
Yep.
Yeah, I think we should be consistent, and to me, it should be a shared expense at some point, 60/40, if that's their share. That's what they say is our share, then that's it. I mean,
Or if they even want to participate, because those types of things have been scrutinized a lot
Mm.
lately, you know? So
yeah.
that's why I'm for tying it to where we have events around for that particular holiday.
And then for that percentage.
For that, yeah, right.
I mean, putting up lights all around the entire building, and in the shrubs of the entire building, you know, is not cheap. And,
Well, might we make, I missed a motion tonight, so I'm just gonna stop for a second. I'm not supposed to make any of them, I'm supposed to
Yes,
just keep this thing going.
Well, I would make a motion that we go out and ask, first of all, for commitments and/or interest in decorations, and move forward from there.
from all three entrances.
From all things of the buildings.
I think they should do like Romeo. Also,
Oh, I was done.
and get sponsors.
Okay,
I'll support the motion.
so the motion would be then that Clara and/or her designee would go to all three of the entities and do a little bit of a needs assessment or a wants assessment of, I'm paraphrasing that right? Does that
Yes.
summarize what you're saying?
That's correct.
Okay. All in favor of that motion? Aye. All opposed? Okay, thank you. So we've got the what's going on updates. So one of the things that we had talked about is some of the things that we want to have come to us that maybe are either things that This is kind of a first reading around. There's no action to be taken, just giving us information before we get all the documentation that we would need, just to kind of know what's on the way. So ask Clara if there's any of those types of things that are kind of like the first read or the first shot at some of these, as well as also some updating on some of the things that we have approved and what's happened from them. So these are kind of, these next few here are probably pretty quick and
Yeah.
mostly informational, so
They
please.
are, they are. The playground update, the playground is there. I just received a phone call right before this meeting started, and they are going to try to come out tomorrow to start. We do have a soccer camp out there, so it's pretty busy, but they have a whole crew and an opening, so I said, just come early, so hopefully it starts tomorrow.
Great.
We would, as soon as it is completed, and like to a great point, is when we will do a grand opening type of thing. So that is to be continued. The fitness center treadmill, which you approved last time, those have been purchased, those are installed, everything is good there. The new hours, there was a little bit of a security scare that happened at Washington Township, so, and there was some previous, different things that had happened over, I would say, the last year. So, it has come to the point that they want to, we all want the building safe, right? So the new hours, our fitness center staff, our fitness center is in the basement, so the new hours are going to be from 8 to 3 p.m. now for Washington, Monday through Friday. It is because we need to have 2 staff when we're in the building, especially when the staff is on the lower level, because we leave the senior center door open, they walk through and they go down. So that cannot happen anymore. I am going to be meeting with Sam to try to make sure, it's fine to have 2 staff, especially when there's someone in the basement. I just don't know that we need necessarily 2 staff when we're having a homeowners meeting. Because I don't know what the 2 staff are going to do. They're going to stare at each other. You know what I mean? When it's on that first floor, our staff sits right there.
Yeah, I would imagine if it's something going on in the senior center, we have 1 staff, that's all you need.
But when it is in the basement, then we would always have 2 staff. So we're working around making that happen. But I just want to double check, to make sure Sam is on board with that whole thought process. They are actually adding some doors and taking away push doors, so they actually have to unlock to get into the lobby. They're kind of just like if we were our own separate building type of thing. That's what they're trying to get to, so that the security on our part, because we are a community center and there's no way around it, people are in and out and use whatever door is convenient for them. Right or wrong, we all do it. So that's what they're looking at. So we're just going through the bumps, and but we are going to have to probably pay to have some of these doors and walls cut through so that we can have doors, so it does kind of block us off. On their part, if someone comes out of our door from the senior center, goes in the lobby from the 8 p.m. meeting, and walks through their front doors, if they don't turn around and double check to make sure it shuts, like some doors don't shut tight, I can see where there is an issue. I'm hoping that they will, while it's regular office hours, that lobby will be available. I think that would be great. So I'm going to ask him about that to see if we can make sure that during those times, while the whole building is moving around, if those doors could be open, but I'm not sure. But I will get back to you.
I have a question on that. They did discuss security cameras.
Yeah, yes. So within our budget right now, we have security cameras for the parks, and they are, and I believe it was approved, that they are going to be adding more or looking at their whole security. So I had asked if we could have some for the park, so that we can get them on the outside of the building. So, and Stan was gonna add that and let me know how much that cost would be from the company that they're working with. So then I will bring that back to you.
On the inside?
On the inside, for the senior center, we could. I mean, I don't know.
I didn't know if they included, if we were included in that.
Normally, I would think not. I think that is their building where they were gonna put it, we weren't. However, if we do put down in the basement, if we sell the fitness center, that's probably a very good spot to do it. Inside our senior center, I don't necessarily know that we need one inside of there, unless you want. But we don't have it at the community center either, so I think if we're gonna kind of go in that direction, we would want to look
Think
at
about a
it.
bigger scope.
But
And
for outside,
Is there, the security cameras, would there be a monitor somewhere where you could actually see, or is it just a recording situation?
so I know that they have an alarm company. I don't actually know the answer to that, but I can go back and find out.
It's monitored during the day. It shows up on a computer somewhere with the various cameras. But once they leave the building, it is not monitored at all,
Okay.
anywhere, right now. Whether they're talking about adding it, I don't know. But as it sits right now, no.
I mean, it's fairly, or you know, it should be fairly safe, but things happen. And it's like, it's not a, I think it is never wrong to have security.
Right.
But we don't have someone to monitor it either. So we're gonna just be going backwards on, you know, relying on the cameras. But I will say that a camera, I think, really deters vandalism. And even if somebody who does it has a hood up and is hiding, there's still ways to see who that person is. I mean, it's proven daily on the news, so.
Right.
Good.
I know one of the issues now is the fact that not the entire perimeter of the building was covered in cameras.
Right.
So they're looking at adding more cameras, so the entirety of the perimeter is covered. So that's the only thing I know about. That's what they said at the last township board meeting.
Concerts?
Concerts, I just gave you the list, they're underway. We've had one cancellation, which we canceled last Sunday because it was storming everywhere except Romeo, and the sun was out and it was beautiful when it was that time. But, you know, when we do that, we talk to the band, because if the band comes and starts setting up, then we automatically pay them. If they don't, then we are able to use them at a different venue at a different time. So we rely on what they want a lot of the time. So that is what happened. Sadly, we make wrong calls with the weather, but we try. There is a concert happening right now in Washington Township. And there is another one at the Romeo Village Park. We'll try this again. Dan Devlin's band will be there this Sunday, July 30th at 6 p.m. to 7:30 p.m. So we're going to try out the new sound system, and I think the park is beautiful. So I'm excited to try it. And the sound is rocking. It really is. It is. They've got them where you can listen to it from like the ground level, so it's not supposed to go out to the different houses. I don't know if you've heard anything. Have you actually successfully had a concert?
Just one.
That's one. Which would be nice, because just like lights, when you have lights anywhere, you want to make sure that they're centralized and the beams don't go. Same thing with music, if you possibly can do that, but, so we'll see how that is. And then, pool closing. It's just an announcement that the pool always closes, we close the month of August. Normally it's for cleaning, or this time the schools are helping, it will be cleaning, but they're also helping some of the local schools that helped us when our pool's closed and been renovated, so they're just returning the favor. And then lifeguard training, exciting news that we found the YMCA in Mount Clemens is helping us out getting some lifeguards trained, because it's just been a major problem trying to get the lifeguards. So we have 5 of our staff who are going to get trained, so that is exciting.
That's fantastic. Thank
And
you.
that's it right now.
All right.
We make a motion to receive the director's report as given.
Second?
All in favor of receiving that report, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Thank you for the report. Lots of good things going on. Warms my heart. Can't wait to hear that concert. I'll have to come up Sunday night.
6 p.m.
6 p.m. Into number 8, our unfinished business. The first one was on the property leases, and that was myself and Mrs. Knight. But I will allow Mrs. Knight to talk about what we've done with those leases.
I'll let him discuss it.
Okay.
From Megan. I know.
That's true. She really gave most of what happened, so.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that. We're gonna have you and 2 others, and then the 2 of us get together and discuss that 99 units. That would be good.
So we put out some dates, and we could all get together and talk about that, so look forward to that as well. Any questions or wonders on the building leases? Again, you did hear from Ms. Poznanski earlier, so. How about then on to B, the RCS agreement, and that was Ms. Getter.
We've had a couple meetings with Dr. Robinson to get those initial talks underway. On August 9th, we have another meeting with him along with Washington Baseball and Romeo Softball, given that they use a lot of the fields, to see what supports maybe will come from them, so then we can move forward with the ins and outs of the actual lease.
Any questions or wonders from the rest of the commission about that? Okay. On to letter C, the update on the bylaws. Mrs. Zimmerman?
Okay, I sent out on June 27th the 3rd draft, but we really have to put this on hold until we see the new interlocal agreement, which, as I understand it, is in the hands of the attorney, Bob Siebert, at the moment.
Township attorney.
Yes. And when he finishes with it, it's supposed to go to Bruce Township and Washington Township for their approval. I guess we get no input or anything until after that point. So we just have to wait for that. We can't finish the bylaws till we get the information that they put forth in the new document. So it's sitting there waiting to be finished.
Okay.
And Mr. Chairman,
Please.
while we're on that topic, and certainly not to belabor it, we have a lot of other items on the agenda. Ms. Zimmerman and I were fairly well going, back and forth, not in an argumentative way, but she sends things, I react to it, I provide her with input, she sends it back, and we've been going back and forth. There are some things, in addition to what she mentioned about the uncertainty of what the new or amended interlocal agreement will bring, but just some things that you might want to consider. You don't necessarily have to react to tonight, although maybe you want to, but things we might want to include or address in our local bylaws. And one is an issue that the chairperson brought up earlier, which is the making of motions and the chairperson's role in that. It can be whatever you want it to be, but strictly speaking, under Robert's Rules of Order, which will be our default bylaws that will say, to the extent not addressed in here, Robert's Rules will prevail. Well, Robert's Rules are made for big assemblies like Parliament or Congress and that kind of thing, not necessarily for a 5-member board. There's nothing wrong with allowing the chairperson to make motions or second motions, but under a strict reading of Robert's Rules, the chairperson's not supposed to do that. So I'm just saying, if we want the chairperson to have that authority, best way to clarify that is just to add a sentence or a paragraph in there. On that same point, the way we've been operating this evening, which is perfectly fine, is an item is announced and brought up and presented, and then we have a discussion. And then when we're done discussing and asking our questions, somebody makes a motion to act. Again, strict interpretation of Robert's rules, there isn't supposed to be any discussion until the motion's on the table. Now, I've never liked that, but that's what it says. So again, if the commission would prefer to handle things the way we do tonight and at prior meetings, which is, an item is called and then a presentation is made either by a commissioner or the director or member of the public, whoever, and then you have discussion and then a motion's made. Again, I think that's something that would be appropriate to just say. You can say it in just a sentence or two in the bylaws. A few little things like that. Who is responsible for preparing the agenda? If we want to specify that, is it the chair, is it the secretary, whatever. Bearing in mind that regardless of who prepares it, one of your first orders of business is we go over and we approve the agenda, right? So if the commissioners don't like it or want to modify it, that's fine. But somebody has to be responsible for preparing it to begin with. Or it could be the director, it could be whoever you want it to be. But again, that's something that you would commonly want to address in the bylaw. Maybe not the director. You know what I mean? Just to make that.
Did you just get kicked under the table?
Ouch. But just to, just so there's never any uncertainty, especially as people on the commission change over time, as who's supposed to be doing what. Little things, but sometimes they save a lot of angst.
Sure.
And it could be a couple of other things, but those are the things I just wanted to mention tonight. So if the commissioners think those are all good ideas, worthwhile ideas, I can work with Ms. Zimmerman, and when the bylaws are ready for you to actually have on your agenda as an action item, we can incorporate those things as well.
Fantastic. And thank you, Mr. Stern, for bringing the one up about kind of our procedure and way of being, because I did full transparency, reach out to Mr. Stern,
Right.
because I just appreciate, I want to go by and have the order that we need, but I'd really like the opportunity for people to ask questions before we can make a motion, so we have an intelligent motion to be made based on all the information we have. And again, not discounting, I'm sure Mr. Robert, when he did that way back in the day, had really good reason for and is much smarter than I am, but I would really I guess it's just easier when we have the information we need to make the particular motion, so.
I think it makes more sense to have the motion up front in a large assembly, because otherwise, just imagine.
For sure.
Congress, you'd have
Yeah, filibuster.
100 people talking before anybody even knows what actions.
My favorite explanation of it is you have to think of again, large assemblies in old times when all of
That's
this
right.
started. Because literally there was a piece of paper that went onto the table. It was a literal, we say on the table now and we just mean up in the air, but literally a piece of paper went on the table and then the discussion opened, and so if you put that in your mind that that's the way it worked years ago, but yeah, when you got 400 people sitting in a room, it works a lot better than with only 5. It's not necessarily.
For sure.
So we'll incorporate those ideas,
Into the-
those concepts in the bylaws. Sorry, Phyllis, that could
That's fine.
mean I
that's-
guess we anticipate there'll be a further
Yes.
revised draft.
Yeah, right.
We'll get it, so.
If we make it all the way to 10 amendments or 10 revisions,
We want to try to
There'll
get
be
it as close to
You're
approval
right.
as we can.
Right.
So that when you do see it, maybe you'll be able to act on it, approve it, and we'll be done talking about bylaws.
Fantastic. All right, thank you for that. We are on to the revised investment policy. I see 3 names there. Do we have anyone that would like to speak to that item?
well, this came up, Cindy and I were having a discussion once, and it came up, that we needed an investment policy. And at some point, I got a copy of an old one that we had, and So I took that and revised it a bit to fit. No, I think I sent it to Mr. Sharon first, and he revised it to meet state statute or whatever. And then I made some changes to bring it up to date with this board. But then I believe Cindy still had some issues with it, so.
I mean, there are some protocol or process issues. I mean, the investment policy is fine, it's written in terms of legality, but it's not necessarily the way we do things or want to be doing things. And so I think it needs some tweaking in that regard. And we thought, well, that really is a discussion item for the entire commission. And yes, Ms. Knight did have some specific things that we wanted to tackle or address, relating to who's doing, the reporting and to whom and all those sorts of things that we should clarify. Whatever policy that we're going to adopt should clearly reflect the process we intend to follow or should follow.
So if we think about this as unfinished business and the idea that we had a group looking at this, does it make sense for it to go under 9C when we actually are tackling some of these policies? Or do we want to address this one specifically right now, where it is?
Because this one is going to be viewed by, improved by both townships,
Okay.
I thought it would be best if I could represent Washington and Bruce, and we bring in their investment policies to try and bring this close to ours. And the other policies the same, so that we're kind of mimicking, since they put us together, kind of mimicking.
Because the investment policy that actually I think was provided to me by Director Russell, and I provided it to Commissioner Zimmerman, it was quite old. And I think it's, when we talk about best practices and things, I mean, I really would recommend it be something that you, as a commission, you look at every year, or at least every other year. And I think under the agreement, the interlocal agreement, you're supposed to do it, is it every 3 or 4 years? Every 4 years, but there's no harm in doing it more frequently than that, just to make sure it is fully up to date and current with what, with what you're doing and with new technology and everything else. But, what you have before you is, again, largely modeled after something that's somewhat of a dinosaur at this point. So I think trying to bring it up to correspond to or be consistent with what the townships are doing, which I'm assuming are probably far more current, makes a lot of sense.
Okay, so you guys gonna do that and then report back at the August meeting?
Do that.
Okay. I just want to get that in.
So do we need a motion to create that committee? Because I'm assuming this was, again, getting it together was,
I don't think you have to create a committee, you can just direct the two to, we can just direct the two to, doesn't need a committee.
No, that's fine. We don't have to, we can be formal, but we don't have to be formal.
okay. I was going to use my power there. I just said we just. All right, so we have it in the record then, we have it in the minutes then,
Right.
that Mr. Billick and Ms. Knight are going to work on looking at those policies from the townships as well as the one we have currently to bring that to you.
Okay.
And we'll report back in August. Fantastic. Benefits package.
Okay, I'll start with this. Based on the last meeting, I talked to Stan Babinski in Washington Township, and he gave me the name of the gentleman who handles the benefits for Washington Township, whose name is Dennis Doley. So I spoke to Dennis, and he has provided me with some information about what they currently have. And I also talked to another agent who handles employee benefits and who would like to quote on our business. But before that, I need a census. I think I sent you an email. Did I send you an email about that?
About,
The employee census? Yeah, okay. But I just sent it the other day, so that's fine. Before we can go out to quote, we need an employee census, all employees, whether they're gonna use it or not, who's gonna use it, ages and.
Probably dependents, I would guess,
Yeah,
probably.
stuff like that, whether they're gonna cover their dependents and all of that. So my next question is, who's gonna handle this? I mean, I have no problem doing it, but then Ms. Knight had talked to Washington Township also about this, so it makes no never mind to me who's gonna handle it, but we need to assign it to somebody.
Absolutely, because we have till the end of the calendar year.
Yes, for the benefits.
For the benefits. So do we need then to go, someone to help craft any kind of RFP or to just work to get the census? What do we need right now?
You can,
so we have that. I mean,
okay,
Yeah, I do have the census, I put it together already.
Okay.
So we have that.
And, do you want me to go up there to talk, or can you hear me?
you should.
Probably.
So it gets on the recording.
So it's on the recording.
Because I did speak to Dennis also. I have the census, and basically, health insurance is going to be pretty much, no matter who you go through, could be the same across the board, but everything needs to be submitted to whoever we're going to go with or whoever we're going to have quote it ASAP, because we need to get it into them by like September, October, so that we can get quotes, so that we can be ready to roll in January. So I do have the census. Dennis believes that if we turn in our information to him, he may be able to get with Blue Cross and actually put us on a spin-off for a year, where we can still be on the grandfathered Blue Cross that we have now, so without going into newer rates, which is going to drastically change our coverage, he may be able to retain our coverage by doing a spin-off. So, for that matter, I would prefer that we try, definitely let him quote it out and see where we go, but I understand we have to get 3, but I think the best bet for our Blue Cross is going to be through him. And there's other things that we can piecemeal it through other people, whatever we need. Our Clarity healthcare reimbursement card is through Dennis, and he said that is no problem just to transfer it over. Our Empower, which is our pension, and our 457, that is through Rob, I forget who, but yeah, he said that's no problem because we're already separated, as we might have to pay, our fees might go a little bit higher, but I already do all the submissions. I don't pay that to Washington Township, so we are already separated, and I showed it to Cindy when she was in, that this is our money, this is employee money, and Rob already said that'd be no problem to break it off and keep us separate. Our fees might be higher. And Dennis, the same thing, we could keep everything. And Phyllis, if you want to see exactly what we have, I do have a copy of all the, well, you said he gave you some stuff, but I have a copy of like all the policies, everything, which,
Depends on who's gonna handle it. If I'm gonna handle it, yes. If I'm
Oh.
not, then I don't, then whoever's.
okay, well, I have it for whoever might want it. But, if you want my input, I'm willing to help. I've done benefits in the past, and I'm a little bit at stake here, I would assist where I can.
I'll take it on. I'll work with you.
Okay, so I will send, I guess I'll send,
Priority. I mean,
it is.
we have to do it, and we have to do it.
And I know the last email was like basically, hold up, let's have it done by the commission, see where we're going to go. But, so I have the census done of who's employed, spouse information, their birth dates, and I think they go with their first dependent. So I have all that information ready to go out to whomever so that they can start quoting us. And then I have copies of all of our policies and what we're actually getting right now.
What we're really looking at is the health insurance.
Yes.
Everything else is taken care of, and.
Yeah, well, we'll need the life and the short-term disability, long-term disability, but those are, health is really the big one. And yeah, everything else can just be really a cut and dry spin-off at January 1 from what they said. It's just going to change our fees a little bit, but everyone's comfortable with the Empower we have now. So,
Okay, so just so we know who's doing what, so you will be the liaison with and getting all of that. So anybody on the commission that has either been or has ideas for, we'll run it through Bob so one voice for all of us.
Sure.
You have the same, policy. Doesn't Dennis cover you guys? I think so. I think he told me.
On the health
that he-
insurance?
Yeah, I think he said.
I don't have them covered in my.
Oh, yeah, I think he said he covers all three, Romeo, Washington, and
Yeah, that I don't know. I know he has Washington, and, I've spoke to him before because, like I said, we handle our stuff a little bit differently, but I've spoke to him in the past.
Is though, I mean, exactly why is this necessary? If it's been done this way, just basically tagging on to Washington Townships, what was the rationale? Does anybody know?
We're a separate
Because
entity.
we're a separate entity.
Well, we're a separate entity, but we have to still answer to the townships.
Only when it comes to the signing.
Sorry.
I just got a message from our audio technical people. People have to be speaking into their microphones, please.
Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah,
I think-
that's a separate entity.
Yeah,
That's-
so I think at this point, we are going forward with this process.
Right.
And I don't disagree with you in the least, but at this point, we're going forward with this process to make sure that we are where we need in a timely
Definitely.
fashion.
We want to make sure that everybody's covered.
Right.
And it's probably a good idea, but because that way things could be changed or added to or whatever.
So any contact information or previous correspondence to go to Mr. Billy? So he has everything he needs. Oh, look at
This
that.
is-
We can win.
This is the other gentleman that I know of that wants to quote.
Okay,
Okay.
Thank you.
and I know one too.
Thank you.
That wants to quote it as well.
All right. F was stricken.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
So G, completion of the name change on all documents.
Okay, wait, okay.
Oh, sorry.
I know we struck it, but, so what are we doing about it?
The reason that I struck it was because the job description for the director was approved by the previous board per the interlocal. It was a 90-day, they had to have it approved within 90 days, and it was approved within 90 days. And it was at the November 22 meeting. And I did go through both. Phyllis didn't have that, that's why I sent it out, she redid it. But I did go through line by line, and they're pretty much, I mean, we didn't pick up really anything else in the second one that Phyllis
So
did.
we don't need to address it.
No, I mean, that's why I struck it, because it was already approved by the
Okay.
previous board.
So when we go to finish the employment agreement,
That can be the exhibit.
that'll be the exhibit.
Okay.
Okay,
Thank you, and thank you for slowing me down.
no problem.
G, completion of name change on all documents, Mrs. Knight?
That, they already did that, they
Okay.
sent the
The
letter out.
letter?
Yeah.
Okay, so we have the letter, it's been approved. Monthly financial report,
Okay,
Mrs.
that's
Zimmerman?
me. Yeah, I had distributed what I thought would be an easy-to-read monthly financial report where we could see a synopsis of where we stand in all the budget line items. Not all the line items, the major budget line items. And I'm just wondering if that was looked at by the Verna or anybody else, and whether you think it can be carried out.
Verna and I did look at it, but we can probably get that out of the system without doing that one. We can get the budgets on the side.
Yeah, well, I'm gonna sit closer.
You get your steps in.
Just stay up there.
Most of that we can get out of our monthly financial, but if you did want us to use that, when we looked at it the other day and Cindy and I were gonna, I was like, yeah, this shouldn't be hard, we can put it in. I didn't have the actual Excel file to put it into, so
No, as long as the format is basically the same, that's fine. I don't care where it comes from, as long as,
Yeah, it can be, and I can also summarize the financial that I give you guys, or that I give to Cindy. You know, I can condense it down a little bit too. I can expand it more. I can pretty much do anything you want me to do.
I would just, like I said, like to see something like this so that I can, on one page, see where we sit.
Yeah, I think I can shrink it. I think if I do summaries instead of detail, I think it can be done. So maybe we look at that next week, Cindy, when you're in. We've been looking at something weekly as she comes in to sign checks. It's just easier than emailing and not understanding.
Excellent. All right, so we will look forward to seeing those. Letter I, the vehicle ownership. I know we had some question on that. Mr. Staron, your name is after that one.
Yeah, is this just intended for me to comment on what I previously advised? Okay. There was a question that made its way to me concerning whether the commission has the authority to own vehicles, because I think vehicles are currently entitled in one or both of the township's names. And I did look into that. There's nothing in the interlocal agreement that prevents the commission from owning vehicles. We are prevented from owning real estate, but not personal property. So there's nothing in the agreement that prevents that, and it probably makes sense for the reason I mentioned earlier. We're a separate entity, we should have separate ownership, and it probably is owned by Bruce right now because it's one of those things that's just the way it started, and nobody ever questioned it, and there was no reason to change. But new vehicles could certainly be purchased in the commission's name, and existing vehicles could be transferred, but I think we want to definitely make sure, just like we are with the benefits, we want to make sure the insurance matches up too before any transfers of ownership occur. We want to make sure that we're not going uninsured.
And I got a call from,
Whatever cost is associated with that too, we need to recognize.
I talked to Mike Philbrook about that, and so he went looking for all the titles. And other than one which we discovered was way back in the name of Tri-Community Media from 15 years ago. Yes, they were all in Bruce's name, but they have all since been changed. Everything, between Mike Philbrook and Stan Babinski, they took care of changing everything over. So
they have been changed and
I
entitled now
believe
in
so.
the commission's name?
I haven't heard that, or nobody contacts me.
Oh, okay.
I had the whole list of them, and I was talking to Mike, and he said he was gonna talk to you.
Yeah,
But, which is great. I just don't have them yet.
okay.
or-
Well, yeah, it'll take a while to get to the
Right,
state. I assume.
Parks and Recreation and Stars are already on our insurance policy.
Okay.
So insurance is good.
Insurance is covered.
Okay, insurance is covered.
So it's all being handled as far as I know.
Okay, so I did talk to Pam Hill, the auditor, and Ashley, and they both said that the vehicles, I think we kind of talked about this, Bruno, the vehicles for Star need to go into Star as an asset, and the vehicles for Parks and Rec need to go in Parks and Rec as the vehicle, as an asset.
Okay. All right. Revised interlocal agreement, Mrs. Zimmerman?
Well, I think I already mentioned that Mr. Siebert has the document for what they call wordsmithing. Not sure what that term means. And then it will go on to the two townships for approval. So There's really nothing for us to do until they get it back to us, and then we can change all of our documentation accordingly. So I will be looking forward to that.
All right.
Do we know whether a draft has been created yet? The only reason I.
My understanding is that two gentlemen, one from each township, came up with a draft, sent it to Mr. Siebert. Last time I talked to Mr. Kopp, that's where it sat.
Okay. I mean, that's all fine. It's one of the things that it really kind of relates to the comment that Commissioner Knight just made about, from an accounting standpoint and assets and where do we list these things. A threshold question in the new and improved, or whatever we're going to call the interlocal agreement, is STAR going to be a standalone, separate legal entity from Parks and Rec? Or is STAR just basically going to be a division or an assumed name of Parks and Rec? It's all under the same umbrella. I mean, those things are kind of important because they have accounting implications, they have liability implications, personnel implications.
They have their own millage.
I understand
So that would
that,
make-
but as of right now,
Oh.
what we discovered is that's another great mystery. I spent a lot of time looking at this. I was pestering Ms. Russell to provide me with everything she could, which she did. I've consulted with the township attorney and squeezed everything I could out of his memory about it, and we've come to the conclusion that STAR never really was created as a separate entity. It's just sort of a name and an operation, but there really are no legal governing documents that say anything about how it was ever established and how it's run and who oversees it and so on. So that's what's being tackled through the interlocal agreement. My only point is how that shakes out, how in the.
The only thing
structure.
that I was told was that they're being combined into one
Okay, good.
interlocal. That's all I know.
That would be my preference, is to
Yeah,
do it that way. but
Yeah,
I'm
they are
sure-
being combined.
I wasn't sure if they were doing that or creating an entirely separate
No.
interlocal agreement.
No, it's going into one interlocal.
We'll wait and see, but it will bear on some of these things that we're talking about here tonight.
Absolutely, thank you. All right, revised Washington Township event request, Mrs. Zimmerman?
Yeah, I passed that on to you, didn't I, Clara? How Mary, or asked you to call Mary or something about it? Because they changed or clarified sort of what they were looking at, but
So, I had talked to Stan more than I talked to Mary,
Oh, okay.
because we were all in a meeting together, and Sam, Mike, and Stan were all at the meeting. So they're saying that it is not political or intended to be. They are going to try to, get people to sign up to vote and items like that. But we are not putting together an activity for September 9th. My suggestion, if the commission wants us to be a part of the Washington, which we are going to be a part of Washington activities, that maybe we add it to Super Sunday next year, or we add it to maybe a Halloween and do a trunk or whatever. Well, no, not that, I thought of the name, truck, because it will be.
Yeah,
do a
they're-
truck event.
they're calling
So
it-
truck or treat,
Right.
like type of thing for Halloween, that maybe we could tie it into that, because right now, our brochure's already out, our advertisement's already out, now we're working on fall. So either we work on something for fall, or we tie it more to the Super Sunday event that, used to be a lot bigger for Washington Township. And, I mean, it is a nice event, there's a craft show, and I don't know that there's ever gonna be the chicken barbecue from the Lions, but the Lions, have been talked to, their hardest thing is getting volunteers, because it's the same volunteers like anything that do it over and over and over again, so. But I do know, like, I've been in contact with the Lions, that they are definitely interested in, you know, trying to get some type of event for Washington. Not a festival, not a, you know, maybe it turns into that as we go, but right now it would just be like some type of event, but not September 9th and no politics for anywhere. I mean,
So you're working with them, so.
Yeah, well, I've talked to them,
Okay.
so now it's gonna have to be, like, I will have to work with them if they wanna do a Halloween thing, otherwise if they're gonna wait, or they can come with the election, you know, sign up. I mean, honestly, Bruce could too, if you wanted people to be able to, sign up to vote or whatever, I mean,
Yeah,
they've done it any of
I
our
know
programs.
part of it is the fact that Stan expressed to me, Mr. Babinski, that part of it is educating the voters on the new voting laws, because they're new for this year.
And
And
really.
so he wants to, that's part of the issue,
Right.
in getting people to sign up to vote. But no, he promised me there would be no politics.
Yeah, and really, that, if they have a program like that, I mean, I knew that there is, they want to add some cars and stuff, and the trucks. But again, that is bigger than just, I mean, we could have added them at a concert, but it's kind of too late at this point. So we're gonna have to look at fall or look at next spring, to do that.
I just want to take it off my plate.
Yeah. Right, and I should at this point too say that our special events coordinator, sadly, she is officially leaving. She officially resigned last year, but she has stayed for this year, kind of as a favor to me and to get us to this point or whatever, but she's just bogged down with her family stuff. So we are going to be posting for that position, so. There's another reason that, but we do have concerts still left. I mean, and I'll call Stan and they should come out to them. I mean, we get a lot of people. I mean, it would be a great way to just hit it several times.
All right. So 8L was the addition for this evening that I made at the beginning, and that was around a committee that was put together to look at two parks specifically in Washington Township, and that subcommittee, as we talked about earlier, in my error, I omitted Mrs. Knight, but she certainly will be involved. What we had done previously was look at what Giffords and Webster had been tasked with by the previous commission to do, which was to put together some topographical maps and some additional measurements and such, with the idea of some work at Washington Township Park and the Pavilion as well as at Gilcher. So some of that has come back just via email today, asking with some questions from them in order to proceed further. And as I realized that this is in this year's budget, we will get the group back together to get back ASAP with them, answer those questions, and our committee will come back with some recommendations for the commission at the August meeting, because I think it's going to take some time, so we want to make sure that we get that moving. So I just wanted to put that back on there to note for August especially. All right. On to new business, tasks and motions chart, Mrs. Zimmerman?
Yeah, there was discussion at the last meeting about, I think about, making sure we follow up with things as the board makes a motion to do something. So I came up with the form that I sent out to everybody. Two forms, actually. One that is tasks that we talk about doing where actually no motion was given, but a direction. And then the second one is motions that the board passes, and the date that the motion happened and who's responsible and when it's due, etc. So I came up with these forms. If if the board chooses to adopt such a thing until at such time as we come up with a task management program, which I know is in the works, but, we don't know when that will be. So I thought we could use this format for now. I will take on, if you wish, the responsibility of upkeep after each meeting. I will add motions or delete things that are completed or whatever as we go. But it's up to you. If you don't like it, I will put it in the appropriate file.
Circular file.
Is there a status on this other program that you mentioned?
Yeah, I know that we were talking about it. Go ahead, Claire.
Well, that is one of the questions that I was talking to the expert communications about too, because I was like, do you
Okay.
have something? Or, because he was trying to figure out, because we're partially Google and we're partially Outlook, and in Outlook there's a task manager, and in Google there's a task manager. So I kind of feel like once we get this rolling, that we'll be able to do it it will kind of, if there's a cost, like, because we're probably gonna have to update our Microsoft as we go forward. But we can, with 360, I think it's in it, so it's probably, I would say that until the IT part is settled.
That's what I was thinking. I'll just do this until we get all the IT settled, and if they can do it, okay, fine, then I'll pass it on.
To tell them it's something that we want.
Do you want a motion on it? I'll make the motion that we use Phyllis's charts in the interim until IT issues are resolved and programs are acquired.
I'll second.
All in favor of giving Phyllis more work to do?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? All right. You know that one's going to pass. And we thank you and appreciate you, Mrs. Zimmerman, for all of that. Thank you. Revised organizational chart, Mrs. Zimmerman.
Okay, this is just, again, something I worked on. I looked at the one that we had been given in the past, and it was basically correct, but I thought it was not quite in order the way it should be. So I think the way I have laid this out, to my knowledge, actually is the actual corporate structure. So I don't know what relevance it has, other than I think it lays out, the order from top down. So it shows the two townships as being conjunctive to the commission, and then from us to the director, from the director down to her departments, from those departments down to the staff. So
I have one question on that. Claire, do we have, when we're talking the departments, because we've got like Patty, Lynn, Becky, do they fall under, two of them fall under the same thing? Or would you consider them three different? What I'm thinking is seniors maybe being separate on there.
They're all, I consider them, or as they have been considered, they're all coordinators. So there's the senior department coordinator, there is the family, top youth, that area, and then there's the facilities and maintenance. So all three of those coordinators, it's really how the budget is, you know what I mean, kind of split up to.
yeah, and that's the way it shows under programs.
Okay, all right.
One is family, and that's
Kind of,
the tot, youth, adult,
Right.
then seniors. So those are departments under family, or no, under programs. So,
and then the maintenance.
yeah,
Maintenance is separate on there.
right.
You
And
know-
then the administration is separate, again, front office and accounting, and then Star Transportation Office.
I didn't get that packet.
I was just going to say, did
Oh,
you see
didn't you?
that?
No, so, well,
This
so
one?
Scott had sent, well, I didn't get any, and I wasn't sure if that was.
Oh, I'm
how-
sorry.
Oh, that's okay. But, I got the minutes and, or else maybe I would have noticed
Oh.
that I didn't have
Okay,
Cindy on the list, but that's good.
this one and the task management you didn't get?
No,
Okay, I'll send it to you.
or not the new list. I have a copy of a task management from before.
Okay. Let's see, okay, I'm making a note on both of them to send them to you.
Do you want me just to forward them to her right now?
Oh, yeah, if you, that's right, you got your computer, yes, thank you very much. Thank you.
So maybe review those
Yeah.
for accuracy. And
Yeah, okay, then we won't do anything with it till
We'll leave
you.
it for next meeting. All right, 9C was set a special meeting date to discuss financial issues. Well, this is the special
You're
meeting
right.
date. So here we are. Might I propose that we take 5 before we get into the financial issues? There are some snacks there and water if you need, but can we resume in set 7 at 7:20?
Thank you.
Thank you for indulging, a little break. So we were on 9C, new business was about the financial issues. And I know there's been a number of actions or at least conversations to be had, but I did want to start and allow Mrs. Knight to kind of get us started and provide a frame of reference for our discussion this evening, if that's okay.
So basically what transpired was everything was done under the two-man rule, as I'm going to call it, 2 board members from each township. Everything was written, ACH was written that way, and when I came into this, I started finding things that were under the old way. One of the biggest things is the ACH because there is no signer on it, no bank signer. And that was written so that the clerks would look at the accounts payable and the supervisor would look at the payroll. To this point, none of us have looked at the payroll. So does the payroll go out through Washington or does it go out through our ACH?
Ours.
Okay, so that's one of the things that I guess we'll have to look at. Bob and I will look at that and the way that the 2 townships do it. Most of these policies, and that's how they fell in the accounts payable. We've been going online. We get the accounts payable sent to us email and we're approving, and that's become a problem because we're not meeting all May. So we're going to have to change that. And this is a hard one. I have talked to I talked to Cindy at the MTA on the way things are supposed to be done according to the state of Michigan. Checks are supposed to be, and Bob, you can talk to this too, checks are issued by the clerk, which in this case is the accountant, and then the treasurer brings them to the table, we all approve them, and then the checks go out. So we're trying to work around that because checks are done on a weekly basis now. There are some things that I guess we need to look at and what you guys do as far as what can go out outside of that monthly. I'll let Bob talk to that because Bob, you guys meet once a month, so.
Right, yeah, Bruce Township, the way they do it is they meet once a month. However, they do have a policy in place that allows them to just to pay normal operating expenses. You know, the light bill and, you know, and things like that, so that it doesn't have to wait, or like some credit cards that have due dates, or not necessarily credit cards, but some things that just have due dates that conflict with the meeting. Other than that though, all of the other things go through, they're approved at the board and the checks are mailed out the next day. So I don't know, and we'll have to talk about how frequently, you know, and what things would be considered normal operating that we don't really need to see. You know, we can have a policy that the board then adopts that, you know, gives permission to Clara or, you know, whomever, to approve that. And so we'll go from there.
Yeah. And then some of these other policies are just older, they're from 2005. I got the cell phone policy and it's very short. Maybe we look at your cell phone policy, Bruce's, and then we look at Washington's. We try and combine those two. The biggest thing right now is just trying to get with Julie and Berna on what goes into that at the table, what we approve at the table. And one of the things we did talk about, and I think everybody should know this, is we have like the concerts, and they get paid when the concert happens. So we're trying to figure out a way to, we know that the concert's gonna come, we've already got that list, can we approve it for X amount? And then if it gets canceled, then we just don't send a check, those kind of things. And then like our sports.
That's a hard one.
Because you know ahead of time you're gonna have that.
But you don't know, like you don't know how many or who refunds out prior to, like there's so many different variables when you're dealing with so many registrations. Like we might have someone get hurt, someone whatever, so we could we're just so different than a township. I mean, we're a service that we're constantly moving, and there's, I mean, if you see the amount of checks that we go through, I mean, just for daily to operate, I could see, I don't know. I'm not sure, like, we get the revenue in for the program. Like you had asked, like, did it make sense when you saw the basketball, like,
Yes.
the check that went out?
Yes.
So we always have, like, a whole list of the people that are coming through. Then we go through the expenses, those are included. You see how much we're paying out and how much we retain. So, and those are definitely more than the $5,000 allowance that I have. You know, like, we're spending $10,000 or what have you. Sometimes on trips, we're spending so much more. And yes, I think I just don't know.
I'm here for you.
But we kind of said it, you know, a month ahead of time.
No, but we don't.
We don't really know because, yeah, but what we do know is that our instructors are going to be paid a percentage of our net revenue. So we do know that. So what we're thinking is if when we start up, we could actually submit for, the high dollar amount. And then, say we're going to write a check and get it approved for $3,000 to pay this instructor. But if people cancel out, then we're still approved, because if it came into $2,500 that we pay the instructor, we'd be approved for the $3,000, so we'd still be okay. But some of the checks that are going to need to go out sooner, or I would think, or like to, is if we have to refund somebody. Somebody comes out of a class and they cancel, well, they paid us timely, and we'd like to get them their money back timely also. But those checks are, unless it's for a trip, that could be several $100s. We're not talking thousands there. So maybe there can be a threshold that is put in place that for a certain amount under this, because Cindy and I talked about it, and a lot of our stuff is normal operating expenses. But when it comes to the instructors, we're going to have several variables there. When it comes to reimbursements to people, or even, we order T-shirts that are part of a program. Well, when you pay your program fee, that T-shirt is included. So that check, it's actually paid by the people. So we need to pay the person who we're paying to do the T-shirts, because the people actually paid for that. So I don't know how we're going to break it down. I think if it's our money that we actually have to spend as a genuine expense, but if it's a part of the program that was paid for with program fees, I think it should be legit. And if the person, is, like I said, refunds, we need to get those out as timely as possible, because as it is, when we do a refund, sometimes they're already waiting 2 weeks by the time we find out about it, and then run it through our whole process.
But could we leave out programs?
I agree with what you just said, as far as, if it's Parks and Rec money, it's different than if it's program money. The program money where you're just acting as an intermediary, I think it just needs to be part of a policy that those things are handled in that fashion.
Yeah, because we're just a pass-through.
Let's back up one little level here, because I think what we're getting to is the procedural piece of it. So, and I love this idea that we're going to brainstorm the procedures that work right. But if we could step back, especially for the community at large, to the policy side of it and the why behind it.
Right.
Because again, these things are in place, but when this commission was put in place as a separate entity, we now are held by the interlocal agreement, as I understand it, and correct me if I'm not accurate in this, but we are held with this interlocal agreement to the standard the same as a municipality. Correct?
Correct.
I'm correct in that.
Correct.
So some of why we are doing this at this larger level is because our structure that has been given to us, as we were put there, says that we have to do it to that standard. Now, how we get to the procedural pieces and what it looks like day to day to make sure that we're able to be as efficient as we can and honor some of the things you mentioned, I think are the things that a subcommittee can work with to get to. But if we step back up to the policy issue of what we need to have as the overarching structure, then I think, so we are on the same page with what the policies are. So maybe, Cindy, if you wouldn't mind kind of stepping back up You mentioned you spoke to somebody, or there was a,
Yeah, at the MTA, which is the Michigan Township Association. So Cindy there was very helpful and explained it to me, because we are a separate entity, we need to, like you said, fall under the same thing that the townships and the cities and villages do. We have to follow the same accounting manual that they follow, because now we are a separate entity. And there's structure that needs to go with that. The clerk in a township will issue a check with a bill. And then from there it goes to the treasurer, and then the treasurer gets it approved and then sends that check out. So we now need to go to that, because we're no longer having clerks from 2 different townships taking
Right.
care of it, or taking care of it. So yes, the policies that we need to take care of, and they've never been there. The previous board didn't have it, the previous board to that didn't have it, and they just fell under.
they weren't held to that standard.
Yeah, well, they kind of were, but they weren't. So they fell under the township, and they kind of used that.
Okay,
So, yeah, the biggest one right now is just figuring out our accounts payable process, and I guess we can work on that. The ACH policy, this is where I'm not sure where my role falls and where their role is. Do I take a position in that ACH as an approval? Because right now we have, payroll going out, and there's no one that's a check signer signing off on that. And I found this out when I went to the bank. So those are the kind of things that we need clarification on.
Again, for the public, maybe better explain what ACH.
Oh, it's,
I know we know, but
they,
they don't. They may not.
it's,
automatic clearing, automatic clearing house.
Yeah. So basically what happens is the staff can take money, push money out to someone. So if they need to pay, let's say, the lawn company, they take a check and they push it out to them through the bank. So there's no check, it's just an ACH. And I wasn't aware of it until I got the checks, and I was signing checks, and I realized that there was a check that didn't have a line, and I asked what it was, and that's when I found out that that's an ACH, that the staff is actually taking care of that. So that is something that, we need to address for security reasons. There had been some talk about credit card. There is a credit card policy. I guess we need to look at that. The cell phone policy, to figure out where that falls as far as, did they turn in a phone bill, or are they getting a phone? Those kind of things. It's more detail, and that always, and it goes back to, again, Bob and I discussing bringing the Washington and Bruce together, and then figuring out what it looks like from there, and then bringing it back to the board. And then the investment policy too.
And I appreciate you, Berna, by the way, coming and standing here and listening to this, and I appreciate you all working to think about what this is. So at the policy level, I'm summarizing just to make sure I understand it right. The biggest thing is us making sure we understand what has to be approved by this commission prior. So that idea of what are we bringing for approval first, that was one that I heard because of Open Meetings Act and that type of thing. And Bob, you talked about some specific examples about when that is and when that isn't.
Technically, everything is still coming to the table, it's just at what time.
Right.
Yeah, okay.
So, whether it's through the policy or whether it's through, because we would approve the policy and
So then the procedure that goes underneath the
Right.
policy.
Right.
Okay. Because, looking at our list of policies, we have the ACH policy, we have the deposit policy, discount policy, gas credit card policy, overall credit card policy, and cell phones were ones that were our policies that we have in some way, shape, or form that we are going to look at just to see if they are up to date, still relevant in the way of things. I think I saw something that talked about direct communication on a cell phone in one of them, like the old Nextels back in the day. Or making sure that, there was something else that was like the record or the 8-track tape player kind of scenario. So some of those is getting those up to date, and those are things that we are looking for, and that you mentioned are going to be coming as our subcommittee to see if we've got the right ones to bring back for review. Okay.
And I did get a list of these from the auditor. And one of the biggest ones that the auditor did discuss was a purchasing policy. And the purchasing policy definitely needs to be done. There has not, to my knowledge, there is not a purchasing policy. So
I think there is one that at some point I saw and forwarded, but it's old, it's very general, it's kind of a patchwork thing, it's not
It's
not
where
a
the
we can do better.
money was talked about, like how much,
Yeah,
you know, we can do that.
Authority.
yeah.
Well, I did bring the one from, because the library does fall under the same thing where they get their monies from the township. So I did put in our packets, the library one, so that we could look at theirs. And Mr. Stern, I'm not sure if I sent you that copy.
I don't think I saw it.
Okay, so that one, it'll be a good basis for us, because the townships are so big, you know, their numbers are way bigger than ours. So it's, you know, working on those and just making sure that we run just like the bylaws. We are run, we're new, we might as well start everything fresh and clean it all up and do it the right way.
The other thing I wondered, I know in speaking with you all that we have an audit, and is that audit, do we know where that is? Has it been completed? Is it something that we are in, have we received it from the auditor?
They would know that, yeah.
Okay.
So they would like to finalize it and come in August.
That would be great. So I was just going to ask, can they come in August to our meeting and present that to us?
Yes.
Okay, that would be
That is,
fantastic.
that's the plan. So, but it hasn't been closed yet.
Okay.
Yeah, there were a couple of things when I talked to Pam that she still needed in
Yeah.
order to.
So we have actions of looking at all of these policies, getting them updated, making some comparisons, and we're bringing those back to the board
August,
in August?
which is probably a good time because Pam will be here.
Okay.
Okay, so that's all of these items?
All of the ones that say policy on them
Yeah,
anyway.
okay.
The accounts payable was a process. That is a little bit more day-to-day. I'm looking at Cindy, but are we good with approval? You've been working with Berna, you've been going
Yeah,
in.
The process I'll write out with Berna. We kind of talked about it, and me and Julie and Berna kind of said, well, they kind of don't want to change their process because they do it on a weekly basis. Which I don't have a problem with going there and looking at it weekly, as long as at the end we have that number of all the items, and I bring it back to the table, and then we say, okay, this is what we're going to be sending out. But at least the checks are already done, and they have those checks.
But
No, go ahead, please.
But still then the checks that we figure out that are able to be pushed out weekly, we would be able to
Yeah.
push out weekly, which could possibly be the programming ones, right?
Yeah, we can work on the policy to do that.
And then we should also look at those ones that we know are your monthlies, your utilities, and make, those are automatically happening. So we're making the blessing, but we know that those are the ones, like you were saying, that can come out.
Yeah, we're looking at, I did talk to Pam about that because I'm signing a check as you are, or you, signing the check for Detroit Edison, signing the check for consumers, those kind of things. Those actually can come out of ACH, which will make it a lot quicker. So we don't have to worry about signing the checks, they just go out monthly. And those are, you know, those monthly things that have to go out.
Okay.
You look puzzled, Berna.
Me?
Yeah? No, you're okay?
Worried about our puppies.
No, I'm taking a break.
Anything else from the board, and from the commission here around anything that should be considered? I think we have some actions for those that so graciously wanted to work on these policies.
Okay, so the only note I need to make is that the committee will return with the policies,
In
draft policies
Draft
in
policies
August.
in August for us to review.
Got it.
And I guess a note, if any of those certainly need Mr. Stearns' view on those, probably best that happens before they come back to us,
Right.
just
I'll
for
be happy.
expediency.
Happy to assist in that regard.
Okay.
And then I don't know if any of these at the policy level, or if it's more in the procedure level, where we need to think about a CPA or the auditor or someone else. I mean, I appreciate your background, so I'm not in any way saying that you don't know
No.
what you're doing, but if there's any of that that needs that level of expertise, I don't know.
It's a good idea to use the auditors.
Yeah.
Yeah.
As they're the one, they're gonna tell you what's gonna fly and what's not gonna
Yeah,
fly.
at least have them do a brush look at it
Yeah.
and make sure that what we're doing is right.
And you talked with that person, so you know who that is?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I was
I'm sure you do
talking,
as well.
I was talking to Ashley, but then Ashley was on vacation, so I talked to Pam. And so Ashley will be back, but she's been CC'd on everything, so.
Okay.
And we've had some conversations.
I mean, honestly, by the time they come back to us, you all will have looked them through, you'll have compared them.
Yeah.
We'll have seen a legal perspective, and we potentially will have seen an auditor's perspective.
And then as far as procedures, I mean, if you're okay with me just talking to Verna and Julie about it, or we could do, maybe the two of us, we could do like, I don't know, like an in-service or something like that, see what helps them as far as the process.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if you're working on that, I think, yeah, absolutely, getting really into how it's been done now, and as best we can to stay within the rules that we've been given and attach the standard that we've been held to, while doing our best to make sure that it still works for those that have to interact with it every day.
In a prior life, and a prior job, many moons ago, I was required to sit down and make a step-by-step list of how I do things. You know, how to go into QuickBooks and make a deposit, how to go into QuickBooks and write a check, and et cetera, et cetera. How I set up my files and everything, so that should I step off a curb and get hit by a bus, somebody could come in and take over the job. So I did that. And so I guess that's probably what we're looking for in a procedure manual. Where, look at what we're doing right now, determine what from that needs to be changed, and then set that as procedure. So,
And I do have, Julie did give me one that she has, so it is a step-by-step.
okay,
So that if she were to leave, this is step-by-step. We may need to tweak it,
right,
but, these kind of things definitely help
yeah,
in knowing what they're actually doing.
right. Okay,
All right, are we in a good place?
Yeah.
All right. So I know we had next, the closed session, we had said we were going to move that
we're
down.
moving that down, so community.
So if there are any community comments,
I just have a question.
all right.
I should have asked in the intermission.
Well, it's good that you did it on the record, because if you have the question, somebody else has the question.
Okay. Mary Meisner, 489 Victoria, Romeo. I watched the Washington Township meetings, and I know that they had an issue with a security breach or whatever, but they were talking also, I thought I understood that when the HOAs come in to the hall, in the meeting room, are they charged to have their meetings there?
No.
No.
All community.
That was a misstatement, I heard it too. They said,
Okay.
they thought, somebody made the statement that they pay rent, and
Okay, they do not.
they do.
Okay, because I was confused, because I know at the community center on Morton Street, or whatever, you can have pretty much citizens committee meetings, reunion meetings, whatever, at no charge. And they also, even though here, tonight, you're using this room, and it just happens that Bob is on the commission, so he would be keying you in and out, but what if he wasn't here? I don't think Bruce Township would be paying an employee to be sitting here while this meeting was going on.
What we do is we give, people come in and sign out the key,
Right,
and we don't set the alarm, it automatically
Right,
sets.
yeah, because my condo association has their meeting here. Okay, so that, someone misspoke that, because they were saying that perhaps there needed to be 2 Parks and Recreation employees there when the HOA meetings were going on, and I thought, what a waste of money. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Any other community comments? All right. Any commission comments that have not been brought forward yet?
I have one little one.
Okay.
And I did pass this on to you, Claire, I think, about the letter that came about the pickleball courts.
Yeah.
So was that taken care of?
So I have had conversations with Larry about that. So we've had master plan meetings, we have budget meetings. I mean, we try not to exclude, we like opinions, and, but I think that is something that the commission is going to decide, where pickleball is going to go or not go, or,
Yeah, I got it, and just for reference, I got an email from Gary Kopp, one of the township commissioners, forwarding me a letter that he got from a Lawrence Kmek, I'm not sure how you pronounce his last name. And it all had to do with pickleball courts, so I forwarded it on to Clara to take care of responding to it. Again, Mr. Kopp called me the co-chair of this commission, which I corrected that I am not the co-chair. But as secretary, it was my job to pass on the communication anyway, so that's fine. So I just wanted to make sure it was handled, so I will, again, cross that off my plate.
See, we give it and we take it away.
That's right, that's right. It's fine, as long as you keep taking, I'm cool.
Pam, anything from you this evening? Anything that's hot on your mind that we didn't get to today?
No.
Okay.
Except, I just thought, a great place for a pickleball would be behind the Rite Aid.
Yeah. Yeah, again, I think that as we sit down and we look at the properties that are available or what have you, I don't think there's a wrong spot. Well, I mean, I guess there could be, but I do think it's a hot sport that is, could be played by everybody, so. And I don't know that we're gonna ever be able to draw lines on the new Romeo High School courts for a very long time, so. But they are beautiful, the fields that they're building, and all of the fields that they're doing are beautiful.
Well, I'll reserve my last comments, as everyone else has said them or passed, to just put out, I guess, thank you to, first of all, this commission for all your hard work. I mean, this was yeoman's work. There's a lot of things on this agenda, and there's a lot of work that's been done behind the scenes to make these things, and you all have done a fantastic job of really, I'll say, taking the bull by the horns, but I also wanted to thank Clara Byrne and their staff too, because change is difficult, and really getting to a new commission, in some ways, okay, here's another new group of people that are coming here to tell us what to do, so to speak. Really been open, the dialogue has been open, the conversations we've had have been open, and I really think that we've really tried to really appreciate how you do what you do within the standards and some of the constraints or some of the things that we have to think about as a commission. So I couldn't be more pleased, and I don't mean to be patronizing in any sense of the word, but with how we've been attacking the work that we've had to do in the short time we've been together. Appreciate the continued communication from the Parks and Rec Department as well. And I really think that we're going to start to see some things really get into place, which then will allow us to, move on to some of the other duties that we know are going to come forward. So with that, I will close the commission comments. And I know we would like a motion to go into the closed session.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
All right?
It's gotta be roll call.
Yes. Roll call.
Okay, roll call, please.
Mr. Billick?
Yes.
Ms. Gitter?
Yes.
Ms. Knight?
Yes.
Mr. Palmer?
Yes.
Ms. Zimmerman is a yes.
And we would invite you, Mr. Starin, as well, to come to that closed session with us if you would, please.